guys that are in your gut all the time room, a little window of opportunity to multiply and conquer, and then they will. And so, in order to help your body fill its intestinal tract with the beneficial bacteria and kind of take back the high ground, take back the territory, I recommend you supplement with a good probiotic. I recommend people do that every time the seasons change, at the equinoxes and the solstices for 1 month. That's all you need is 1 month's worth of stuff. And the best time to take an acidophilus supplement is right before bed. So every time the seasons change, every night before bed for 4 weeks, take a really good probiotic, and life is good.
Interesting. And some people out there recommend first thing in the morning on an empty stomach. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, it is interesting. The basic idea with the probiotic is that, you want it to get into your body through your digestive apparatus with as little you don't want your stomach acid to digest it. You don't want your pancreatic acid to digest it. So we try to sneak it in, when your body is not busy digesting food.
Interesting. Okay, I get it. All right, can I fight with you about something?
As much as you'd like.
All right, I want to, yeah. I mean, I have my gloves on, and I want to fight for something on this.
Okay, good.
Okay, I want to fight over olive oil. I'm upset because I have olive oil 2 tablespoons a day in my salad.
Yeah.
And I just spoke with someone who got back from Israel the other day, and she said, I have to tell you, the olive oil you get here in this country is not anything like what we have there.
Right.
It's dark and unrefined. It's a totally different thing.
Yeah.
And she said, for example, the same bottle that you have would cost you $70. Okay?
Yeah.
My question is, you're saying one of the bad foods is olive oil. Now, I know that oils oxidize, and I totally get that. We've covered some of it with different guests. I did a whole show on coconut oil. I'm a lover of coconut oil. But why are you down on olive oil?
Well, I'm not specifically down on olive oil. I'm down on all oils in a bottle. I don't care if it came from an olive, the canola plant, vegetable oil. I don't really care what the source of the oil was. I care about how it was bottled and stored, right? Now, if you're going to squeeze oil out of an olive in a dark room and inject it into a bottle that's nitrogenated so that there's no air inside the bottle, and it's a dark bottle that's sealed from the light, and then it's refrigerated, then I'm okay with that. But nobody does that. And, when you buy any oil that's in a bottle, it's oxidizing on the shelf. And it's a couple of interesting things to talk about when we talk about the oil specifically. We could go a lot of
particularly olive oil, because, the Mediterranean diet, and
let me tell you about the Mediterranean diet.
Yeah, again, let's talk about it.
So let's go there. So this is, again, a myth.
I'm taking down my gloves. I'm taking off my gloves. I am deferring the punch to you.
All right, we can hold hands then instead of trying to fight each other. Okay,
I'm fighting for olive oil.
Okay. Well, here's what you want to do: get some olive trees, grow them, squeeze the oil out of the olive yourself, and use it immediately after you squeeze it. Then there's no problem because it hasn't oxidized. It's not the oil; it's the oxidation of the oil. And by the way, when you heat an oil, you radically increase the oxidation time. Now, the problem with oxidized anything is when you consume an oxidized anything, you're pouring
free radicals
into your body, and free radicals destroy tissue. Now, right? So we want to avoid free radical damage as much as we possibly can. And so one of the ways to do that is avoiding using any oil that's in a bottle. Regretfully so. But here's the thing with the Mediterranean diet, right? Again, from the proper perspective, everything makes sense. And when you bite off half of the truth, chew it up and swallow it and think it's the whole truth, well, you're out of luck. So researchers years ago noticed that people who lived on the coastal areas of the Mediterranean lived about 5 years longer than people who lived inland. And that's statistically significant. So they tried to figure out why. And son of a gun, they found that people who lived on the coast ate more fruits, more vegetable, more fish, and more olive oil. Of course, this is the Mediterranean, okay? So then they speculated, son of a gun, that's where the whole Mediterranean diet came from. However, they neglected to read between the lines with the population on the island of Sardinia, which is off of the toe of Italy. Because the people on the island of Sardinia lived 5 years longer than anybody on the coast. They were the longest lived people in the Mediterranean. And the only difference between the Sardinians and everybody else was the Sardinians didn't eat olive oil. They
Are
hated
you
it.
serious?
They lived on goat meat, and root vegetables, right? They have very little olive oil consumption. And eliminating olive oil added 5 years to their life, but the researchers neglected that little data point. And also, when you look at the long-lived cultures around the world, the Bama people in southwest China, the Okinawans, the Georgians in Russia, the Vilcabambas in Peru, the Hunzas in Afghanistan, very little, if any, oil consumption at all. And, these people are 105 years old. They've got no Walgreens. They've got no hospitals. They've got no health care. They've got no pharmacy. They've got no nothing. And they're lucky if they've got a roof over their head.
Right.
And they're the longest lived cultures in the world. And one of the reasons was, by accident, they were eating food that was extremely rich in nutrients because of the soil that it was grown in. By accident, they were drinking beverages that were loaded with antioxidants, like red wine with snake skin in it and green tea, or chocolate, if you're a Vilcabamba. Imagine that, chocolate. And they were, by accident, not eating foods that were harming the body. Anyway, so our basic message is this. When you stop consuming food that's hurting the body and nutrify the body every day with a good recipe of bioavailable nutrients, all 91 essential nutrients, game, set, match, you will optimize your genetic potential of 120 years. And that's our genetic potential, 120 years. We have the potential to make it to 120. We're lucky in this country if we make it past 75.
You're right. It's just fascinating. All right, I'm putting my gloves back on for the next question.
Let's go.
You say that the skin of a baked potato or yam or sweet potato is bad, but if you boil a potato, you can eat the skins. Can you explain this? I don't understand it.
It's the heat that's the thing. When you bake a potato in the oven, the heat of the oven is much higher than it is if you boil it. And when you bake a potato, a yam, or sweet potato, the skin gets crunchy.
Right.
When the skin gets crunchy, there's a chemical is created from the carbohydrates in the skin. It's called a heterocyclic amine. A heterocyclic amine. Some people say heterocyclic amine. But it's a cancer-causing substance, which is caused by the intense heat, in this case, of the oven. That doesn't happen if you boil the potato, the yam, or the sweet potato. So,
what about steaming? Is that okay?
No problem. Yeah, the steaming is no problem. Yeah. So you can steam it or you can boil it and you can eat the skin. But if you bake it, you can just eat the guts of the potato, the meat, so to speak, of the potato, not the skin, because the skin at that point is loaded with carcinogens.
Fascinating.
I know, isn't it?
The devil really is in the details.
It really is. And the irony is that just a few simple changes can add years to your life. For example, if everybody listening to this broadcast did one thing: no exercise, no yoga, no pranayama, no meditation, no prayer, no vitamin and mineral supplementation, no antioxidants, no dietary change except for this one thing, you would add approximately 10 years to your life. And what's the one thing? Stop eating fried food. If you just stopped eating fried food today, you'd add 5 to 10 years to your life, depending on how old you are right now. Because when you fry a food, a chemical is created in the food called acrylamide. And acrylamide is unbelievably bad for you. And it is bad. And if you look at a demographic of the United States, of how long people live in the United States, from the Mason-Dixon line south through the old Confederate States into Florida, people in that part of the country die the quickest. They have the shortest life expectancies of anybody in the United States, Well, outside of a couple of Indian reservations in the West. Those people have the